I want to go through the 10 most memorable moments in wrestling history. And
what's the standard? What are the things that have to happen for it to be one of the greatest moments?
For me, it was, I knew where I was, except for number 9 because I was very young. I knew where I was. I've seen number 9 over and over and over.
Okay.
I knew where I was when it happened. I can remember the fans' faces from the shocking, memorable moments.
So is it shocking or is it wrestling changing? Iconic.
All of that.
Okay.
All of
okay.
it.
Okay.
All of it. And you'll see from the list. You'll
Okay.
see. Now, I had some in there that people probably wouldn't have put in their top 10, but I definitely remember these. So I want to at least give them some honorable mentions, especially because 2 of them have already passed away.
Okay.
One of them, not in the top 10, but when Eddie Guerrero beat Chris Benoit at WrestleMania 20, that was a really cool moment to give Eddie Guerrero his time, his moment, holding up, if I don't make it too loud, holding up that belt.
Hold him up.
Holding up that belt, which is upstairs. So that had to be on there. One that's really sad, Owen Hart's tragic death. That was a hard thing to see.
That's a top 5 for me.
That was really hard.
Because that opened all the doors to the things behind the curtain. And I remember this is like the edge of internet kind of being a thing, enough that when it was passed along and shared, the internet went bonkers because that was the first time something like this happened where we could get together in a space and talk about it. Normally you would have heard about it in a wrestling magazine 2 weeks later.
So you're slightly ahead of the dial-up
era. Yeah, like that dial-up era was legit in that there were not the United spaces of wrestling that you could go in, and there was no Facebook, there was no Twitter. It was a little different to try and find information at the time. Haas, where were you the night that Owen Hart passed away?
I was in my friend's basement and we were watching the pay-per-view together.
Yeah, that's how I remember. I was in Arlington, Virginia, watching the pay-per-view. And then I remember firing up the internet just to be able to go, okay, did that really just happen? Was that a part of this or not? And then as the information passed.
Yeah, because so many storylines are obviously just storylines, but they changed their tone pretty quick, but still it's wrestling and I know exactly what you're talking about, because it's like, did that really happen? So thank you for reminding of getting the actual factual information was used by, I think it was Yahoo at that time to find information.
Yep. The same thing happened because Vince was supposed to be murdered on TV on a Monday, and then something happened the previous Saturday. Which I think falls on your list of Chris Benoit and his passing and that situation. So they had to bring Vince out of character and out of where they were running this story, because the previous Monday his car had been blown up, and then they left it hanging, and then back then you had to wait.
Damn.
And so he had to show up and tell the story. Right? Awesome. Is my recollection right on this?
That I do. I try to avoid the Chris Benoit story as much as possible, just because of all the horror that came with what happened. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna go with you, whatever you say on that one.
It was because it was so weird, and this was a stretch where we were losing a bunch of wrestlers, mm-hmm. whether it be from suicide, overdose, whatever. So different conversations about wrestling we're having, where people were like, okay, we need to draw a finite line in some of this, and that situation was one of them. So, what's next, Haas? What do you got?
Two more honorable mentions just to stay there. This one's gonna make my Lincoln friends upset, but it's my list. Brett screwing Brett. Brett screwing Brett.
Yeah.
It has to be there, but it's not in my top 10. I obviously everyone remembers Earl Hebner ringing the bell early, and what the things that I remember or what we talk about after the fact were Brett said, I saw Vince in the backstage and he just ran into my fist. So,
Right.
I remember using that growing up. If there was ever a fist fight, it's like, oh, well, he just ran into my fist.
Yeah, it just that the Montreal Screwjob, because it's been titled and documented and docudramaed and revisited. There's so many details to it and so many important players in wrestling involved that I would keep it in. It would be in my top 10, probably top 5, only because it was another case where the curtain of wrestling was pulled and forever changed.
Well, then my list better be good.
Okay, here we go.
One last one that I really wanted to get on there because there's two moments in the match. King of the Ring. Mankind climbs the cage. Yeah. Climbs the cage with the chair.
Yep.
Gets thrown off the cage through the announce table. Shouldn't be in the match. Shouldn't be in the match. He's stretchered off.
And then the reemergence, right? That here's the best part of all of the things you've mentioned so far. The Jim Ross call of all of it. Because Ross, he's killed him. like you stopped that match, for crying out loud. Like just apex Jim Ross.
And for him to go back up on top and get choke slammed through the cage. Through the cage with the chair. Then, if that wasn't enough, with his tooth coming through and all that stuff.
Through his nose.
Oh.
Like the membrane, the tooth is hanging out, but it's still hanging on with some and the camera rolled right up on it.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
Then let's get out the thumbtacks.
Yes, sir. Yes,
and then there's the nastiest pile drive. So I remember all that, but that didn't make the top 10. So number 10, Degeneration X invading Monday Night and Monday Nitro and being at the peak of the wars. It was here in Norfolk, Virginia. I'm not in Norfolk, but Northern Virginia. Norfolk's 4 hours away. It was 1998, April 27th, if you want to go look up which Raw that was. And DX just rolled up with the tank in front of the arena. And between a door was DX in a tank and Nash and Hall, the outsiders. And DX was very smart because they were trying to fight with them. And no matter what, either the outsiders looked weak because they didn't come on the show, or the outsiders showed up on Raw, and WWE, WWF got all that publicity with now we have a real fight going on. So to me, them rolling up with the tank and speaking on the megaphone and all that's number 10.
Okay.
Number 9, I said I was like 4 or 5 years old, but it's the most talked about moment. So it needs to be on there out of respect. WrestleMania 3. Took his vitamins, said his prayers. Hogan slammed Andre the Giant. Ultimate David versus Goliath. That's what cemented him and eventually made him the Immortal One and made him WWF. And so without that moment, I don't know where wrestling would have been.
True. All facts.
Number 8.
Okay.
So in 2019 for the Elimination Chamber, Mustafa Ali got hurt. and he was replaced by Kofi Kingston.
Mm-hmm.
And Kofi Kingston, New Day was cool, but Kofi Kingston won over the crowd. And because of it, he got to face the Planet Champion at WrestleMania. And with that, the end of it, when the Trouble in Paradise that he hit, and the New Day was in the ring, and there was the 1, 2, 3, and they lift Kofi up on their shoulders, and his two sons are there. That's a memory that I have. I know it's recent, but the Randy Orton stuff with Kofi Kingston, there's a lot of stuff where Kofi Mania was a thing, and it took him 11 years to get his moment, and he earned his keep. And I remember vividly where I was. I was in a hotel room. I was a speaker, and I was supposed to go mingle with people outside after I spoke, and it's like, I'll be right back. I know this match is coming up. I got to see this match. So I had to put number 8 on there, and I'm sure other people would have put other ones on there, but that is very memorable to me.
Number 7.
Georgia Dome, June 7th, 1998. Monday Night Wars again. 106, 107, 108 0. I don't know the number. They didn't know. They kept changing it. It was probably 25 0.
Right.
To become 107 0, Goldberg, Hulk Hogan, Hollywood Hogan. Mm-hmm. The spear, the jackhammer, the toilet paper flying through, U.S. title, NWO belt, 1, 2, 3, Goldberg, World Heavyweight Champion.
That's a big one. Number 6.
And again, that belt right there.
Yep. Number 6, right? That belt.
The first women's main event in WrestleMania history. WrestleMania 35. The entrances. Charlotte Flair rolling up in a helicopter at MetLife Stadium. Ronda Rousey, Joan Jett, and the Blackhearts did her entrance.
Right.
Okay, and then in the Kill Bill outfit for Becky Lynch, the man at that point,
right?
Like, trying to steal Ric Flair's.
That's it, bro. That was it, right?
And Ronda Rousey was invincible at this time, and Becky Lynch, and Charlotte Flair, obviously had the pedigree and the name, and just was so successful. But Becky coming out and pinning Ronda Rousey,
which I still have issue with, but that's anyway.
I know we don't like it, but she reversed the Piper's Pit into a 3 count.